peace, love, and light, my amazing, beautiful people. Thank you, Plato ABC, for letting me know I'm muted. That's the way, that's a great way to get things started. But hopefully you can hear me now. But super excited because I'm here to talk about detoxing. I'm here to talk about natural health. I'm here to talk about transitioning your diet and helping you get on a path to a healthier life and the connection of the mind, body, and soul. It's really, really something that I'm extra passionate about, and that's why I love talking about it. And I'm here to talk about it with each one of you. It's a new series, a new live series, and just to hang out with you guys. You know what I'm saying? To hang out with you guys, to really talk about this, to really dive into these different aspects of life, and that are so important. From such a foundation that we can share these ideas, share these thoughts, and utilize this space as a safe space to not feel judged, to talk about some of our struggles, obstacles that might get in our way, and to educate at the end of the day too, through my experiences. Me being a certified detoxification specialist, and applying these things into my life, I can speak on a lot of different things from, curing certain ailments that people have told us are uncurable, and that you just have to live with it, and you have to take medicine, and you have to take supplements, and you have to basically alter your life when that's not really the case. So we're going to dive into all that. Like I always say, specifically when I go live, I want to make it extremely interactive. So I want you to be a part of this just as much as I am. So any questions at any time, please throw them my way. I love having these conversations with each one of you guys. But today's particular episode is going to be diving into the mindset that goes along with detoxing. When I talk about detoxing yourself, we're talking about eliminating things that serve no value to you, and really getting into what detoxing truly is. Now, as far as our particular series here, it is founded, and it's really kind of birthed by the book that I have coming out, Detox Yourself. And our show is actually sponsored by that. So it's imperative that we pay homage to that and know that it is available. The link is in the description if you want to purchase your copy now. It releases on January 28, 2026. And a lot of the concepts that I'm going to be talking about on these lives are from this book. And I'm going to continue to talk about this book, number one, because it is what the foundation of this particular series is, but because it's one thing to hear it on a live, it's one thing to talk about and whatnot, but to actually have something that you can refer to and that you can dive into and create that intimate relationship, because that's ultimately what books are. They are intimate, they're intimate resources, in a way, divination tools for us to connect and, really dive into ourselves and see the things we need to change and how we're going to apply a lot of those concepts. So definitely check out the book. It's available to be purchased by the link in the description. And, I can't wait for you guys to check it out. And when you do check it out and when you do read the book, make sure you leave me a review, so that enables me to get this book out to more and more people. All right. So with that being said, let's dive into some of these concepts. Appreciate that, Plato. I put that together. I thought, you know what, let's give people some time to jump onto the live. I want to make sure that it's people can jump in and not feel rushed to think that they have to be there right at the start and then miss something. So it gives people a lot of opportunity. It will be available on Amazon. It is still in the pre-order phase. So right now, if you pre-order through the link, you can you'll get the book a little bit early. You'll get an autographed copy from me, and you'll also get what I call a behind the book exclusive podcast that will dive deeper into every chapter. Now, the book itself has, is packed with just so many different concepts and experiences and things that I'm sharing with you and philosophies and whatnot. But you can't get everything into a book. Now this book isn't a huge book either. I wanted to make it very seamless and simple. So I wanted to create something in addition to it to dive deeper into these concepts and, just really give you kind of a behind the books look at what I was thinking when I actually wrote the book. So definitely check it out. I guarantee you're not going to, you're going to be satisfied with your purchase. And, like I said, all the things I talk about in these lives are from the book. So for sure. Hey, what's going on? E-Dog Dunk? What's going on, man? Good to see you. Thanks. Appreciate you jumping in. So when I'm talking about detoxing, this is a big thing, right? This is a big thing that I talk about because I think the common depiction of what detoxing is something that you do randomly once in a while to kind of clean yourself out. I think that's the consensus. And when people think detoxing, they think of, I got to take a specific tea, or I got to take some type of pills, or detoxing is going to clean out my bowels, or whatever the case may be. It's always something that is not within the norm, not within your daily habits, not within your normal life, right? Detoxing is something that you choose to do, and man, it's tough to do, and man, do I really want to go through that, whatever type of detox it is. And people will attach detoxing to things like, I'm gonna go on a fruit detox, or I'm gonna do a liver detox, or a colon detox, or colon cleanse, or prostate cleanse, or whatever the case may be, right? Specific to a certain area of the body or a specific food. And ultimately they go through that process for however long that process is, and that to them is the detox. Now look, I don't blame anybody, because that's ultimately what we've been told and what we've been taught and what we've been sold, but I want to dive deep into what detoxing truly is, because detoxing honestly is something that we do all the time. And understanding that we do it all the time will help you tremendously in understanding how your body works and how it works for you. So we're going to dive into those concepts and whatnot. The first thing, and I talk about this right at the jump of the book, the first thing you need to understand when it comes to detoxing is you first need to learn how you've been intoxicated. If you don't know how you've been intoxicated, if you don't know why your body is acting the way it is, but most importantly, if you don't know the mental aspect of being intoxicated, then you're never going to detox yourself. You're never going to detox yourself. So if you sit in a place in your life where, you have goals, or maybe you're not even to the goal aspect yet, you're struggling through life. You just haven't created the life you truly want, right? You're not happy. You're dealing with whether it's mental health issues or it's physical issues. Whatever it is, this is where it starts. Because in each one of those aspects, I talked about what people look at detoxing as. They look at it 100% as like a physical thing. But no matter where you're at, if you're not happy, if you're not exactly where you want to be, if you're not who you want to be, then there's some detoxing that needs to take place. But you got to understand how you got in that spot in the first place. And this is why I separated my book into two pieces. The first part being freeing your mind. The book is called Detox Yourself, The Secret to Freeing Your Mind and Creating a Healthy Life. But you got to start with the mind. It's imperative. Mind, body, and soul is all connected, right? But when we're talking about making these changes and whatnot, and look, and I know this from experience. Like for me, I couldn't, and I love to hear what you guys think. I couldn't I couldn't become a vegetarian until I was what? How old was I? I was, that's 8 years ago. I was 36. I had thought about doing it for a long time, but I wasn't ready. Like I didn't like it was like a concept, and I would see people that were vegetarian and whatnot, and I just couldn't understand, like, man, how can you do that? Like it didn't even make sense to me until a certain time. And once I was mentally prepared to do it, it was easy. It was a very easy thing. Now, it's not that I didn't have my struggles and obstacles, but from a macro perspective, it was easy. Because it starts right here. So like we have to look at, first and foremost, how have we been conditioned and programmed to think the way we do? And this goes in each aspect. Like when we're talking about health, why do we look at health the way we do? Well, shit, look at everything we see on TV. When what? 4 out of every 5 commercials are medicine, some type of medicine. And if it's not medicine, it's either fast food or restaurants, or it's insurance. I mean, those are the bulk of your commercials, or ads that you see in between YouTube videos. You know what I'm saying? You might see one while you're watching me. And when that's constantly thrown at you, it makes you look at healthcare in a specific way. When you grow up and you are from a baby, you are taken to the hospital and given a number of different shots. And you have to have those shots if you want to go to school, unless you have some type of exemption. You have to have those shots if you want to go to daycare, whatever the case may be. You are thrown into the system right from the jump. And you grow up in that type of environment. And then what happens? Oh, you get chicken pox, right? You get chicken pox, and you have to learn about how it's contagious and how you only get it once. And, you look at viruses and bacteria and things of that nature in a specific way. You're taught this from a little kid. And then you grow up, and then, you already have that mindset instilled. You know what I'm saying? Is there not a particular detox drink, just water, eat just fruit, that will benefit all? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is because from a detoxing perspective, Plato, from a detoxing perspective, like when we've just all been taught that it's like a medicine, or it's some type of supplement, or it's something that is going to manipulate our body into getting rid of something. And that's ultimately like what those products do. But they're not fixing anything. The great quote, right? The great quote from is it Hippocrates? I think it's Hippocrates. It's in my book, and I should know that, right? You before somebody is ready to heal, you have to ask them if they're ready to get rid of the stuff that made them sick. It's the same thing with detoxing. Like, you go purchase this 12-day lemon and apple cider vinegar, whatever detox, or this detox tea, for 7 days, and think that after that 7 days, you're a healthier person, like is a crime. Like it's such backwards thinking, because you haven't changed anything. But that goes back to what I was talking about. Our mindset of what health truly is, how we've been taught since we were a kid what being healthy is. Like, we grow up and our parents try to get us to eat our vegetables, but next to those vegetables, we have a piece of chicken or or chopped up beef or hamburger helper, or, and then the next morning they give us Pop-Tarts or cereal, and they have us drinking milk and eating cheese and all these other unhealthy elements on top of, okay, but just make sure you eat your vegetables. You know what I'm saying? Or make sure, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Those types of things, right? Mixed messaging, not really teaching anything, But just making you think, okay, as long as I have a little bit of vegetables and I have some fruits, then I'll be okay. And if you look at the food pyramid, it kind of lines up that way. You know what I'm saying? So everything you're taught, everything you're being seen as you grow up is intoxicating you, not only physically, but mentally. And the mental aspect is the most important when we're talking about getting ourselves back in the state of health. Yes, you need to be mentally prepared because a few different reasons as we keep diving into it, because the reason we look at health, the reason we look at health the way we do is by design. Because when you break down the systems, the societal systems that have been put in place, from your medical system, that's like your hospitals and doctors and things of that nature, the pharmaceutical system, that is the medication, that we've been taught that we're going to need, and then it's in cahoots with who? The insurance companies that make you purchase their product. It's not even really a product, but purchase their services out of what? Out of what emotion did they tap into? Fear. And fear is the number one aspect to conditioning somebody. Because if you put fear in them and you scare them enough, they're going to most likely purchase your services. And that's what they do. If you truly look at it, we're taught from a kid that there are millions and millions of invisible entities attacking us at all times. Germs. And since there's so many and we can't see them, there's nothing we can do. Oh, maybe if we eat certain things, it'll help our immune system, all these different things, but it's all based on fear. And that's more intoxication. Intoxication. Mental intoxication. So when you're, I don't know, in your 30s or 40s and body's starting to slow down, starting to break down, things are starting to hurt a little more, gaining a lot of weight, starting to get different diagnoses from the doctor when you do your yearly or twice a year physical. And now you're in a place where, man, I got a choice. I can either continue the way I'm going or I can take this medicine. All because you've just been mentally intoxicated and you don't understand what has truly been happening to your body. Correct. Correct, E-Dog. Correct, man. We detox every day, right? Let's throw that right out there. Every time you sneeze, you're detoxing. Every time you have a runny nose, you're detoxing. Anytime your eyes are watering or they're itchy, you're detoxing. Anytime you have a bowel movement, you're detoxing. Anytime you pee, you're detoxing. Anytime you sweat, you are detoxing. You are detoxing. Your body is detoxing all the time, every day. Because your body is constantly trying to keep you in balance. Now, it doesn't always have the energy to do that for a number of reasons that we'll get into. But your body's always detoxing. That's why the idea of, man, I can go to CVS and get me a 7-day detox is just backwards thinking. You want to put your body in the right conditions so it can detox more. Because there's nobody watching this right now, and there's nobody hosting it right now that has a fully clean body. Why? Well, number one, I mean, let's be honest. We've been eating like shit for decades, right? And even for those of us who have made the transition to a cleaner diet, like we still got backlog of just a plethora of dirt in our body, of toxicity in our body, a plethora. So we're constantly on the path to cleaning up. But if we give our body the right conditions, then it can do more and more and more. And then you can get on the side to where, I always say like life, people look at it like, that, you're born and then you're dying from the moment you're born, you start dying. I look at it like, no, the moment you're born, you start living. Because there's two directions you can go. You can go downhill or you can go uphill. I'm 44 years old and I'm going uphill. I'm living. And I'm trying to take my physical body to its extent, to its full capabilities. But we've just been intoxicated so much mentally to look at it like, oh, it's all downhill, and blame everything on I'm getting old, or they blame it on what? Genetics. Just kind of how it goes. But it starts here mentally. And it starts with these systems. And once you fully understand, I talk about this a lot in my book, it's a big part of it. Once you understand how you've been conditioned, then you can acknowledge it. Okay, shit. I've been conditioned like a motherfucker. Like, damn. It's crazy because it will make you question everything. And that used to be my tagline. I mean, I shouldn't say used to, I still use it. Question everything. Why? Here's the deal. If you can't trust everything, you have to question everything. Right? If you can't trust everything, you have to question everything. It's black or white. There's no gray area there. And use that mindset, use that concept in every part of your life. Because once you start questioning things, you'll get the truth. And isn't that what we all want? The truth. That's what I want. But see, we've been conditioned to look at certain thing as authority. We've been conditioned to look at the doctor as authority. Did you guys know that? I'm trying to do this math in my head real quick. Let's say 40, not until 40 years ago, did they actually recommend, and by they, I mean like the educational authority per se for medical school, right? Medical school wasn't even recommended to look at nutrition or study nutrition at all. So you had all these doctors and these medical professionals coming out with barely any knowledge of nutrition at all. And then in 1987, all they did was recommend it. They didn't even say they had to do it. It was recommended. And a very small percentage of those schools, those medical schools, actually abided by that recommendation. So what you have is, and I'm not knocking doctors and I'm not knocking by any means. What I'm saying is the system, the medical system, the educational system that educates our medical professionals do not put an emphasis on your diet, on nutrition. So you have to ask yourself why. Okay. Why? Because it makes sense from a profit perspective. If everybody had the mental acumen to understand how their body works, then they know they wouldn't need to spend so much time going to the doctor. They know they wouldn't have to buy that medicine. And they know they wouldn't truly need to get the insurance. Now, I'm not saying that there's no need for insurance. Catastrophic things happen, right? We drive every day. One of the most dangerous things you could possibly do. Something happens, you might need some medical insurance. So I'm not saying there's no need for it. But think about how many people would not have medical insurance if they understood how their body truly works. Because look, catastrophic things do happen all the time, but what are the odds? What are the odds? But from a healthcare standpoint, if we all knew how our body worked and we all knew how important diet was and we took our bodies and treated them, you know, their true value, I'm going to guess the diseases would be a lot less. Therefore, the need for those systems would be a lot less. So that's why. But me and you, we're on different levels. Like, we're understanding this. We are learning how we've been intoxicated. And then once you do that, and you start questioning everything, you start looking at those boxes and look at those ingredients like, holy shit, what the hell am I putting in my body? And once you get to that point, then you go to the grocery store and understand the design of the grocery store and the way it is. Good friend of mine had a great saying. It's like, you need to spend more time on the outside of the grocery store versus the inside. The produce section, right? It's one of the first things you see when you walk into a grocery store. And it's probably where you spend the least amount of time. And that's by design. You don't see in the checkout line, do you ever see fruit? Never, unless it's in a package. Dehydrated or, preserved or some shit in a fruit roll-up. It's by design. Looking at some of these comments. Yeah, in the UK with social medicine, they are incentivized to ensure people stay healthy to save money. In the doctor's office, the walls are covered with good advice. Well, I'd love to hear some of that advice. Yeah. Now, the social thing, and that's the thing about being in America, is you don't get free healthcare, right? You have to pay for everything. Insurance is ridiculous as far as how much it costs. Unless you're working for an employer that's covering a pretty high amount of it, insurance is ridiculous. Co-pays are ridiculous. And then if you have to buy medicine, it's ridiculous. The average cancer patient spends $150,000 during their lifetime. Or is it? Yeah, during their lifetime. Diabetes medicine, extremely expensive. All these cognitive issues that people are starting to have now, the medicine for ADHD and autism and things of that nature, extremely expensive. But they put so much fear in you with the lack of education that people feel like they have no choice. So it becomes like a major part of their budget. It's like rent, car note, medicine. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's see, eating 5 portions of fruit or veggies a day. Interesting. That's good. Because I haven't, like, look, before I understood how it worked, and I went to the doctor every year for a physical, and I used to have to do it for work, actually. And I had a specific doctor. I think I've told this story before, but if you haven't heard it, like, I had a specific doctor, and I really liked this doctor. He was from the eastern part of the world, and I liked him because he broke things down in a different perspective. And that's kind of where the Eastern aspect comes into play. Just a different philosophy. He would break down what's actually going down. He would take my blood and he would check my cholesterol and he would tell me, okay, this is what this means. This is what that means. And if you keep going down this road, this is what this is going to happen. Blase, blase. And he just kept telling me, man, you need to lose some weight. Right. And I was like, okay. And I tell him, at this time I was a vegetarian. And if you've heard my story, I was an unhealthy vegetarian because I ate the wrong shit. So I'd always tell him, I'm a vegetarian. He goes, okay, well, what do you eat, as a vegetarian? And I would tell him, rice and potatoes and sometimes fruit I would say something like zucchini or whatever. And he's like, well, that's a fruit. I was like, okay, what's wrong with fruit? And he's like, well, fruit is sugar. You can't eat too much fruit. You just need to eat vegetables. And you don't need to eat fruit. Fruit is bad. Fruit is sugar. That's what he would constantly tell me. And obviously I didn't know any better at the time. I was not adept to how the body worked, But now that I know how it works, it makes me look back at those sessions I'd have with him, coming in and him giving me this information, and just how the system, the way he was taught and how most medical professionals are taught is really sad, because the information they're giving people that look up to these things, because that's the thing, we've been conditioned since we were a kid to look at doctors as authority figures. Don't question a doctor. Doctors like, and this is a case in point. My doctor, when I would say something, I'd bring something up, he'd ask me, where'd you get that information? And I tell him, I looked it up or whatever. And he'd get upset. He'd be like, well, you don't need to be looking that up. Just come to me and I'll let you know. Okay. No, I'm going to question everything. And obviously, once I learned how it worked, and I did my own studies and went through my own schooling and all these different things, I've never been back, and never will. But how many people go to the doctor? How many people go and get diagnosed with something and don't truly understand what's happening with their body? Because the medical system, the healthcare system that is in place from a societal standpoint is built to treat you. Treat you. Because you are a customer. They can't heal you. They can't cure you, if they even know what would truly cure you anyway, just based on the educational aspect, because then you won't come back like me. Right? You won't come back. There'd be no reason to come back. Everything that is going on with you, physically, mentally, emotionally, all starts from the same place. So when we're talking about detoxing yourself, you need to forget everything you've been taught about healthcare. Everything you've been taught about health in general. And start there. Because then you open yourself up, you open your mind to what the truth is. It doesn't sound so crazy. When I jump on here and I say, you know what? There's no such thing as contagion. Some of you are like, what the fuck is he talking about? There's no such thing as contagion. None. You would visit the doctor if you had a serious illness, though, right? Good question, Plato. No. What is a serious illness? Give me an example of a serious illness. Now we're going to go down a real dope path here. This is where it gets good, okay? But like I just said, when I say something like there's no such thing as contagion, what are you thinking? Now, if you hear that and you automatically think, okay, this dude's crazy, or here we go with the conspiracies, or he's misinformed, whatever the case may be. Or does it make you go, I wonder what he means by that? Remember, forget everything you've ever been taught, right? Remember, you got chickenpox when you were a kid, right? You got chickenpox, and you were told that that's contagious and you can give it to anybody else. So, you got to stay home from school, or somebody had chickenpox in class, so then everybody had to stay home, whatever the case may be, right? That's contagious, right? It's got to be contagious. No. I can dive deeper into that if y'all want, but we're talking about detoxing here. You have cancer. Okay. All right. I was waiting for that. I knew that was coming too. I knew that was coming. So let's dive into that, the C word. Okay. Cancer. What is cancer? That's the question. So cancer is the 7th stage of disease. Oh, let me get this. Actually, let me get this comment before I jump into this. E-Dog says, my doctor weighs more than me at one time because she didn't know about being plant-based. I educated her on the benefits of a plant fruit-based diet. Now she tried it, and 3 months later, she lost 45 pounds. Bro, that is amazing. That is amazing. I love hearing stuff like that because here I know it seems like I attack doctors, but I don't because I truly respect them. I mean, the work that they put in, the time that they put in, is something to be awarded. And most of them, the reason and they're doing it to help people. Look, you can't knock their motives. You can't you can't knock them for being a part of a system that's broken. That's the way I look at it. They're just in the wrong type of system. Like if you grew up, not even say that. Let's go a different route. If you work, if you're an engineer for Apple and you learn the Apple way and you're a genius at Apple and all you know is Apple, I can't fault you for not knowing Windows. It's all you've been taught. And you're great at what you do within that system. You just haven't been taught another way. And that's kind of what it is when it comes to doctors in this medical system and the education that they receive. Like they're amazing at what they do within that system. But once that the foundation of that system is broken, once you pull the rug out from under it and realize that the germ theory has no ground to stand on, then what do you have? So back to the cancer aspect. All right? You said if you basically said, you go to the doctor, right? If you had a serious illness. And I asked you, what's a serious illness? And you said cancer. Okay. So what is cancer? Cancer is the 7th stage of disease. That means that 6 other stages of detoxing has happened to lead you to cancer, right? So that means you've went through, depending on, where the cancer is or whatever the case may be, right? You've went through colds, flus, fevers, possibly pneumonia, different types of heavy inflammation to chronic inflammation, to ulcers, things of that nature. Your body is giving you signs every single day. So to end up at cancer, you would have had and if we're talking about me, I would have had warning signs multiple times, right? Multiple times. And when I would get those warning signs, guess what I would do? I would make sure that the conditions of my body were at optimal conditions as much as possible so my body could take care of the situation. It's the same thing with cancer. Like you get to the point of cancer, maybe you have a tumor per se, right? So I have a tumor. What am I going to do? Well, number one, I eat really good already. I would even up it even further and go 100% raw. I would fast extensively, and I'd allow my body the full capability of itself, the full gamut of energy to ultimately dilute the acids that were conjured up into that tumor and let my body remove it. Because that's all cancer is, guys. They are malfunctioning cells that have happened through years and years of toxicity and that is built up in specific areas. And your body has to take those malfunctioning cells, those toxic acidic cells, and put them in a little cocoon with the intent to remove them because it doesn't want those cells to influence the other cells. It's a systemic issue. A doctor cannot help me with that. Unless you believe in that type of system. So I can't sit here and say that, I have to watch how I say that because if you believe in that type of system, the medical system, the way that truly is, then, that's the route you would go. But you're asking me, and no, I would not, because I understand how the body works. We've all had cancerous cells. We all have cancerous cells, but our body gets rid of them if we're eliminating. Now, if our body is extremely unhealthy, it's stagnant, and the lymphatic system's not moving, you're not eliminating, your kidneys aren't filtering, all these different aspects, and you're continuously intoxicating yourself, well, guess what? The cancer that you found maybe in your right breast isn't just in your right breast. It's a systemic issue. You can't just cut out that area and think that, oh, I'm good now. I got rid of the tumor. Okay, well, how'd the tumor start in the first place? Back to the Hippocrates quote. Before somebody says they want to heal, ask them if they're willing to get rid of the things that made them sick. So, would I go to the doctor if I had cancer? The answer is no. Because I understand what cancer is, and I understand how to eliminate it. And I understand the power that my body has and the reasoning that I got to that particular stage in the first place. So great question. And it ties right in to the foundation of this conversation of how we've been intoxicated mentally to think certain things. Because I'll say this, what are the remedies to cancer nowadays? You've got surgery, you can remove something. You've got radiation, and you've got chemotherapy. All right? All three of those. Tell me which one of those three fix the problem. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. Plato ABC says, does a plant fruit-based diet give you a lot more energy? That's often a difficulty for me. Yes. Now, it depends on, when we say plant-based, it depends on what we're talking about. Now, if we're talking about a cooked plant-based diet, then is it better than a diet of eating meat and processed food? Yes. But, cooking food is still going to add an amount of burden to your body. So that part is dependent on what you're eating. But when we're talking about fruits are the most energy efficient food on the planet, bar none, because they give you the most electricity, the most electromagnetic energy of any food. It's the food that we were built and designed for. High energy, low burden, super easy to digest, super easy. So you have a net profit of tons of energy when you eat fruit. And when you give your body more energy, you give your body the conditions to perform, to the optimal conditions to thrive. Then what happens is your body starts to regenerate. The cells start to regenerate. So, instead of getting old, whereas kind of the intoxicated way of looking at things, we're constantly getting old, we're constantly dying, we're headed towards something. Your body's regenerating. Your body has the energy to heal internally. It's just a different way of looking at life, a different way of looking at health. I'm not so sure. It's an area I wouldn't advise people not to seek medical attention. It could vary person to person, but all of them. Well, I mean, Plato, look, there's three types. From a mindset standpoint, there's three types of people. There's those that have already went through their awakening, question everything, and they understand the world for what it is. There's a second type of person who realizes that they've been conditioned and they just haven't gone through the process of completely detoxing their mind. And then there's the third type of person who doesn't even realize that they're sleeping. Don't even realize it. And it might not happen for them in this lifetime. So Plato, I would say this, you got to look at where are you on that, right? It's hard. Look, it's difficult from a conditioning standpoint for us to completely change the way we look at health. It's very difficult. But start asking questions, right? Like, what would it, you asked me a question, Plato, I'll ask you a question. If you had cancer, what would the doctor do for you? And then when you give your answer, we can have a discussion about it. And I know it's crazy because we're talking about cancer, and by no means am I saying like, am I diluting the impact of cancer? Look, we're talking about the seventh stage of disease. Ultimately, it took a lot to get to that point. A lot of choices, a lot of things that were out of your control. We live in a toxic world, unfortunately. We've made it toxic. That's kind of the, I don't know, dichotomy of it. But we also have the power to change these things. We have the power to change our body and regenerate and things of that nature. So, like I said, I'll bounce that off of you because I'd love to hear. But getting back to those three types of people, the awakened, look, when you go through awakenings, they happen in stages and they sometimes happen for certain things. Sometimes it's a pure spiritual awakening, right? You start to realize things about this three-dimensional world that, you never really understood before. And now you're starting to see things from a more 5D consciousness, a more of a sixth sense type of aspect. There's that type. There's also just a societal awakening where you just realize that, man, everything you see on TV, everything you've been taught, there's a motive behind it. There's a design aspect behind it. And I don't want to be attached to those things anymore. I've went through both of those. There's a lot of things it's hard for me to do. It's hard for me to be on YouTube. And I've talked about this before. I created my own streaming platform to not be on YouTube. But society, and in order for me to make a living, to live in this 3D world the way I want to live, I have to be on YouTube. I shouldn't say have to, but that's a choice I made, right? And we have those difficult choices sometimes. But that's the awakening stage. The second one is realizing that you need to be awakened. Like, something's wrong. You just haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet. And I know most of my followers are in that bucket. And that's probably why you listen to me, or that's why, I came across on your timeline, or whatever the case may be. This is a part of it. Learning more, putting the beliefs that have been instilled in me to the side. And I'm not saying you have to believe everything I'm saying. At the end of the day, the choice is yours. I'm just a vessel. I'm just sharing my light, right? But you got to be open-minded enough to take the information and come up with your own conclusions. But don't allow the programming, the design, the conditioning to influence the choices you make and who you are. So I said at the beginning, why do we look at health the way we do? It's because we've been intoxicated our entire lives. Even as parents to children, we're intoxicated. Because when we have a baby, one of the first things they ask you, is are you going to have a natural birth? Or are you going to have an epidural, right? They don't really ask you for the most part, they don't really ask you if you're going to allow them to vaccinate your baby as soon as it comes out with vitamin K and then the hepatitis B vaccine. They don't ask you that. And I dive into that in the book because when you look at that, just that part of it, how as parents, we make these decisions based on our conditioning and don't really understand the significance of what we're doing. That's why we have to detox ourselves. We have to. All right, so let's check. Let's see what's going on. My dad died of cancer 3 years ago. Man, condolences, my brother. He was too ill to receive treatment after diagnosis and died a few weeks later. So perhaps I have a different perspective. Okay. I'm glad you shared that, man. And look, condolences, man. I know, look, cancer is a tough subject. I don't do many videos on cancer. I did a couple and they're not on YouTube. I put them on my personal platform, Akasha Flix, because I just know how touchy it can be, right? I've lost people to cancer. And it's never easy to talk about these things after the fact, because unfortunately there's not much we can do to change there's nothing we can do to change those particular situations. There's nothing we can do. But moving forward, how imperative is for you to understand the truth. So if you're faced with another situation like that, to be guided the correct way. Now remember, we are living organisms. What does every living organism do? They die. So nobody lives forever. And unfortunately, our bodies only have access to so much energy. At some point, it runs out of vital energy. The way I like to describe it is, when you're born, you're born with like a battery pack, in a way, of vital energy. And throughout your life, you're either dipping further into that battery pack or not as much, depending on your lifestyle choices. But you got that battery pack. And maybe that battery pack for somebody is, optimal wise, they could live to about 89. Some other people, it's 62. Some other people, it's 150. Because that is where genetics and disposition comes into place. Now, the key is can you live up to your potential? If your battery, and nobody knows what your battery pack is, and that's unless you're extremely intuitively tuned in, nobody knows their battery pack. But know that if you have issues in your family, for instance, if you have parents that were both diabetic, or one of them was diabetic, well, then chances are that you're going to have some issues with your pancreas. So that means you need to do more. Your body can heal that. You just need to give it the right conditions. The problem is we don't. We are getting sicker and more unhealthy as a species every generation because we're going in the wrong direction. So when I talk about cancer, it doesn't mean that everybody can heal themselves from cancer if they just get on a plant-based diet. That's not what I'm saying. Because sometimes the body is too far gone. It's not enough energy left. Because that's a lot of times that I've seen people that do, a semblance of a plant-based diet after they've been diagnosed with cancer, that they just don't have the replenitive energy to keep up with what's going on within their body systemically. But based on my experiences and a lot of the people that I trust that work with people in that capacity, they are more successful than not. And remember, cancer is an acid problem. It's an acidic problem within the body. And you cannot, and I mean you cannot heal and cure an acidic problem with acidity. You just can't do it. It's against the laws of nature. Hindsight helps us to help ourselves and others. At that point where you have no energy, would you seek a doctor's help? No. What is a doctor going to do for me? A doctor can't give me energy. No. If it's my time to go and I have exhausted everything possible, then it's my time to go. There's nothing a doctor can do that can give me more energy. Like, it's just plain and simple. Can a doctor give me something to sedate me? Yeah, but why would I do that? Why would I want to be sedated if it's my last moments? You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm in extreme pain or something like that, man, I'll smoke a joint or something. Like, or I'll do some cannabis or something. You know what I'm saying? I don't do that, but there's so many other things. There's nothing a doctor could do for me in that particular situation. You feel what I'm saying? Chemotherapy. Okay. Chemotherapy. And we just talked about that. An acid problem. I mean, an acid solution cannot, there's no such thing as an acid solution, first off. But you can't cure an acid problem with more acid. All right. So chemotherapy on a pH scale, parts hydrogen, is somewhere around 2 or 3. That is the type of acidity that is in line with hydrochloric acid, right? Think of what hydrochloric acid does. When you are taking chemotherapy, you're not killing cancer cells, you're killing all cells. All cells. And guess what? You can't pinpoint where, like you can't pinpoint where to attack within the body. When it's in the bloodstream, it's everywhere. So look, if you decide to do chemotherapy, that is your choice. I am not a medical professional, so I cannot give you advice. But I'm trying to make you see things from a chemical standpoint, from a chemistry standpoint, from a logical standpoint. It's no different than antibiotics. Antibiotics don't pinpoint, oh man, you've got an infection in your right arm. These antibiotics are going to swim through your body right to your right arm. No. Antibiotics kill all bacteria. That's why it's called antibiotics, anti-life, anti-living. And I understand this might be a mind fuck for some people. This is a part of the intoxication. And I'm trying to help you detox right here. I know it's crazy. I haven't taken an antibiotic in shit. I can't remember last time I ever took an antibiotic. I'll give you guys an example. And this was right when I learned the terrain model and started to understand how the body worked. So the universe, man, has a way of testing you and putting your ideas and philosophies to the test. So about almost 5 years ago, my daughter's playing outside, and she was about 3, 4, something like that. And she was playing with her older sister. Her older sister swinging around a stick, and the stick had a little point on it and caught my daughter right in the nose. The stick went right through her nose. It was stuck in her nose from this side to the other side. She's crying, blood everywhere. We call the ambulance or whatever to help get this stick out. Traumatic experience, right? Goes to the hospital. They're able to take it out, sew her nose back up, whatnot. Just a horrible situation. So the doctor prescribes us antibiotics just in case there was something on the stick, that could, cause an issue internally. And I remember reaching out to, Lauren Ferris, who I have so much respect for. She taught me so much about this, and going through different online forums and just like, hey, I'm in this situation. It's, I know antibiotics aren't good, but I'm a little nervous because my daughter, just that happened, whatever. And I got a lot of different information, and I allowed my intuition to tell me, it's like, look, man, you've learned this. You understand this. No, we're not going to give her antibiotics. There's no reason to give her antibiotics because the bacteria in your body is doing a job. And the reason people end up with situations, bacterial, is because of what we do to stop the body from ultimately doing what it needs to do. Because remember, the body is going to do whatever it needs to do to survive. That means if it needs to lose a toe, if it needs to get rid of something that's not imperative to life, then it's going to do that. But the bacteria serves a purpose. And once again, you can't pinpoint where those antibiotics are going to, get rid of bacteria. No, they're going to kill all the bacteria that it's in contact with, per se. Oh man, pain meds. Hey, like I said, if you're going through surgery, like let's say for instance, my daughter, right? Anything like that, something traumatic that has happened. Yeah, there's a place for pain meds. You'll just have to, what I would say as a detoxification specialist after the fact, yeah, you got to work on cleaning that out of your system because it is going to impact you for a while. My daughter, after she had that traumatic experience, went through so many healing events afterwards, getting rid of the drugs that she had to take. Oh. We knew that was coming. Technical difficulties, my friends, but we'll be good in a second. I apologize. Hopefully you can hear me now. I had to change cameras because obviously it's not working right, but give me a sec. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect, perfect. All right. Sorry about that. My little camera stand ran out of battery and I was not prepared. But let's get back to it though. Let's get back to it. Okay. You know, these are great questions, man. Keep bringing it. This is what this live is for. Yeah, I may have I may have something that I'm talking about up front, but ultimately, I want it to be interactive because these questions are things that people need to hear at the end of the day. So thank you for asking them. So let's get into it. For those who have had success with chemo, okay, yeah. So here's the deal. Like what I talked about, chemo does, right? Like you have to understand how cancer is diagnosed, right? They do a biopsy, they look at the cells, they say, okay, these are malfunctioned cells, these are dying cells, these are cancerous cells, right? So, whether it's tumors or whatever the case may be in that specific area, what they do is that you get the chemo, then they're going to do more tests. Now, all of a sudden, you know what? There's no more of those cancerous cells. So now they're in remission, right? So now they quote unquote been healed, right? And I'm using quotations. They've recovered from chemotherapy. And how many times do you see people end up getting cancer again? How many times? Right? A lot, a high percentage. Because they never fixed the underlying issue of why they got cancer in the first place. You're attacking an acidic problem with acid. So what is that chemotherapy doing? It is killing cells. It is obliterating cells. And in the process, yeah, it's killing cancer cells, but it's also killing your healthy cells. So if you never changed the habits, the lifestyle that caused it in the first place, it's just going to happen again. Now, does it happen 100% of the time? No, because listen, it comes down to disposition. Let's say, for instance, I'll just use breast cancer to be simple, right? Breast cancer. And you do chemotherapy for the breast cancer. Yeah, you can get rid of those cancer cells in the breast. And it may not come back. It may not. And you may not get cancer anywhere else because you had a very, very weak disposition in the breast in the first place. And that's why you ended up at that stage of disease in that particular area. But you still didn't change the underlying situation. Therefore, it may not manifest in cancer in other spots of your body. It may manifest in something else. It might be heart disease. It might be kidney failure. It could be liver issues. Understand, they all start from the same thing. All of them. There is only one true disease, and it's acidosis. There's only one. Everything funnels up to the same thing. And each one of them just have different symptoms. And our bodies and us individually, we show symptoms in different ways. All right, let's see here. It took me this is E-Dog. It took me a long time to get out of the programming, the matrix, what I was taught all my life. Yeah, man. Look, and that's why I spend so much time talking about it, because there's so many people that are still stuck in that matrix. And it's hard. It is not easy. It is not easy. That is one of the main reasons I wrote the book. Because people think that the book is about diet. It's about, my philosophy, right? It's not. I mean, it has that in there. It's about helping you understand all the different ways that you have been intoxicated so you can truly detox yourself. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, the whole gamut, because it's all connected. You feel what I'm saying? Like that's where it is, man. Congratulations for getting yourself out of the matrix, and stay out of there and keep asking questions and questioning everything. Plato, hey, look, man, I see you. You're coming along. Keep going. Go further, man. Dive down some of these rabbit holes. All right. Yes, deep research, man. Deep research, and all of the information, unfortunately, isn't out there. It's very hard to find, right? But that's where your intuition comes into play. Like you'll start to see things come to you that you might be asking, man, that's interesting. Don't question it. Go down that rabbit hole. Listen to yourself intuitively. I'm telling you, that's the main difference there. That's the main difference. You know, so when we're talking about those three, the three types of people, you got to ask yourself, are you awakened? Have you went through your awakening? And if not, do you understand? Like, do you feel like something's wrong and you've understood that you've been programmed and conditioned? And if you're in that second spot, like if you understand, okay, there's something wrong here, you have that question, you have to answer that conscious question of, okay, well, what am I going to do about it? Because it's very comfortable to stay asleep. You know what I'm saying? It's very comfortable to continue to associate yourself with the masses, the rest of the people who are sleeping, who don't even realize that they're sleeping. Going through life, just like everybody else, eating the foods just like everyone else, following politics just like everyone else, going to the doctor multiple times a year, taking medicine just like everyone else, praying to the same, whatever religion, organized religion, just like everyone else. All these different things are by design. Or are you going to start questioning these things and questioning the influence they've had on your life? Have you ever asked yourself why you are the way you are? Why do you like this certain things you like? It's conditioning. Once you start asking those tough questions to yourself, then you can start figuring out the truth. And when you go through that type of an awakening, then we can start talking about becoming the best version of yourself and creating a healthy life. Because if you're intoxicated and you're conditioned and you're programmed, how are you going to make these life-altering changes? Like we've all been taught that life works in a specific way, right? You got to start working at a certain age and you got to work for a certain amount of time. And then once you work for that certain amount of time, then you can get your certain government perks to kind of retire and walk off into the sunset, right? And you have to marry a certain type of person and you have to raise your kids a certain kind of way. All these different things, all put in place by design to keep everybody uniform. It's all by design. But once you understand that, you can divert, you can go a different direction and know that it's okay. It's okay if I'm different than 9 out of the 10 people I know. It's okay if I go this route. It's okay if I want to be an entrepreneur and start my own business versus working for this corporation. And not that there's anything wrong with working for a corporation. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, we're kind of pushed and nudged a certain route because we are a resource. And once you realize that you don't have to be a resource, man, the possibilities just open up. Man, I can create my own life the way I want to live it, the way I want to be, the way I want to look, the way I want to act, the way I want to dress. Yeah. Look this man up, Wayne Dryer. He said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's exactly right. You create the world around you. Your thoughts manifest into things. If you're thinking with a conditioned mind, guess what the world is going to give you? more things to condition you. It's how it is. It is, look, as above, so below, as within, so without. That's how the world works, right? It's all energy. Every aspect of it is energy. And energy has specific laws. So if you look at it, you know what I'm saying? From a conditioning standpoint, you know, it's all about detoxing yourself. Detox yourself. Do that self-audit. It'll be fun. You know what I'm saying? You get off this live, right? You get off this video and you just write down, you just think, man, all of the different ways that you've been conditioned, right? And there's 6 major societal systems. I might be missing one. But you got religion, you got banking, so the financial system, you got the medical system, you have the education system, you have the justice system, and you have politics. You could also throw in the media. Think of all of those different things and how they've influenced who you are. That is conditioning. When you understand that, then start to ask yourself a question. Well, how can I detach myself from each one of these systems? And when you start to do that, man, you start to realize, hold up. If I don't associate myself with these systems and I detach myself, what does my life look like now? I'm telling you, it's a very enlightening experience. Very enlightening. I've got to watch your pumpkin brownie video later. Yes, check it out, man. It was fun. It was actually the first time I've done anything like that with my wife as well. It's the first time we've done it together. It's the first time we made him. So like you're getting the, no pun intended, raw version of us making like a, implementing a recipe on camera, right? So, and they came out really good. There's a couple things I change next time. And we talk about that in the video, but overall, they were good, man. Good. Raw pumpkin pie brownies. They were very good, for sure. Yeah, so. But anyways. Oh, man, this has been fun. I do want to throw out there again for all of you guys still watching. The book is available, Detox Yourself. That's what this live is supported by and sponsored by. Free your mind, change your life, detox yourself. Link is in the description. It's available now to buy. Like I said, any questions about it, reach out to me. And let's keep it going, though. You know, I'm enjoying this conversation about the mind, the intoxication aspect, right? I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. I'll probably do a couple more lives just on the intoxicating part because it's so important, you know? And I might even get a little more detailed in specific ways. But I like bringing up those systems: religion, banking, the medical system, the justice system, the education system, politics, the media. Think about all the ways that has influenced you. Share them in the comments. I'd love to hear. Think about it. I know how they've done me. Oh, you better buy a Play-Doh. Come on now. How many episodes? This detox series is going on like extensively. There's no end time. This is going to be my live platform, Detox Yourself, because ultimately that's what this is all about, right? Detoxing, you know, living the best possible life we can live, and how do we get there, and being the best versions of ourselves. That's what this is about. That's what I'm about. Sharing my experiences and whatnot, you know, on that platform. So yeah, so it's going to be, there's no limit to how many episodes this is going to be, because it's going to be a weekly thing. Usually probably two times a week. And, I don't have a set time yet. I'm working on that, but, you guys will all know once I do have that as well. So I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys jumping on it and chatting with me for a little bit, man. That's beautiful. I want to make this a Q&A too. So like anything, obviously all questions are welcomed. But anything about health, natural health, diet, detoxing, fruit-based lifestyle, fruitarianism, raw veganism, vegetarianism, all of it, the whole gamut. Like I'm open to talk about it, right? I'm open. I mean, I'm here to talk about the terrain model of living, natural hygiene, how these things, how if we start to understand and implement these things, our world is going to change around us. Our body's going to change. Like we're going to be the people we ultimately want to be. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, mindset's where it's at, man. Mindset is where it's at. For sure. For sure. So, back to these, I think of like these systems. I talk right at the beginning of my book, I talk about how I was detoxed. And one of the main culprits of detoxing for me was religion. And I'm not here to knock anybody's religion and what they do. That's, that's you, right? That's your prerogative. That's your choice. But for me, that was one of the biggest influencing factors and conditioning factors of my life. And I was suffering from something called cognitive dissonance. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that basically means it didn't matter what proof I had in front of me. It didn't matter what people told me. I didn't want to believe it. So I didn't give it any energy. Doesn't matter if I had the truth right in front of my face, it didn't matter. Because when you suffer from cognitive dissonance, you don't want to accept things like that because you know it would shatter the fabric of everything you believe in. I consider myself a master at that now. I shatter the beliefs of people who are conditioned. Like we just talked, we talked about cancer earlier. We talked about contagion, all those different things. I'm here to shatter what I like to call generational curses. Things that have just been passed on and passed on for no reason. We need to detach ourselves from those things. Unsalted, something you sometimes do that's impressive. You talk on a topic and immediately answer a question. You must have read it while talking about something unrelated. Yeah, I try to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because I know, I got a lot of information that I'm focusing on that I want to share in these lives and these series. But at the same time, like from the jump, I want to be interactive because I have unlimited amounts of time to talk about all of these concepts, all of these philosophies, all of these ideas. But I want to get to you guys first. You know what I'm saying? That's important to me because you guys are taking the time and spending the time with me. And I'm so appreciative of that. Like, I'm so grateful for that. That means absolutely the world to me. When people tell me, how my videos and my talks and my book have influenced them, like nothing's better than that. When I work with people one-on-one from a coaching perspective, like that means the world to me. So all the information I have, like there's no script here. I got like a couple notes, but there's no script. I talk freely. I'm having conversations with you guys. You know what I mean? And look, I learn stuff every day about all this because there's so much to learn. There's so many different experiences, and different philosophies, right? I've conjured up my own philosophy based on what I've learned, but people are going to watch this. They're going to take the information from here and, also combine it with what they've learned in other places, and they'll come up with their own philosophies. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. So what y'all got? Y'all got anything else for me? I think, getting back to the religion part, and I think I'll dive a little deeper into that in my next live. But just putting it out there, just for people out there watching, like for you watching, out of those systems I talked about, which one do you think you're most attached to? You know what I'm saying? Think about that. Which one has influenced you the most? Which one has conditioned you the most? Now, you might even look at it like, yeah, but I don't look at it as a bad thing, right? I'm sure some of you do. When I bring up religion, banking, medical, education, like you might have loved your school upbringing, right? You might have loved school. You might have loved the college you went to. You might love your religion. You might just be super submissive to your religion, right? You might be a part of the justice system for all I know. You know what I mean? You might be into politics. You know, you might be on one side or the other. Maybe you play both sides, whatever. It's about understanding how they've influenced you and conditioned you to look at the world in a specific way. And is it genuine? Is it authentic? That's what it's about. So if you have issues in your life to where maybe you aren't physically in the place that you want to be, or maybe you're not emotionally in the place you want to be, or spiritually in the place you want to be, you got to look at these things and understand, how did I get there in the first place? If you're dealing with depression, anxiety, any type of mental issue, any type of cognitive issue, how did you get to that place in the first place? How did you get there? Once you understand that, then you can start the process of detoxing. And once you detox that out, it's time to build, right? It's time to build back. But now you're going to be doing it from a place of authenticity, to where you get to tap into who you really are versus what society has molded you into. That is creating a healthy life. That's when you can look at decisions like, man, I've been in this relationship for years, and I don't know if this person makes me a better person. I don't know if they are a part of my, healing journey. I don't know if they're on the same path as I am. I don't know if they make me happy anymore. Maybe it's time to move on. It's that conscious choice. Is this person for the betterment of me or the detriment of me? Tough questions. But once you detox yourself and you get to a place where you understand your worth, it's not that tough of a question anymore. Because you're on team you. It's not selfish. It's not egotistical. It's just what it is. You are on team you, because the best you makes the world a better place. You become a better parent, a better spouse, a better partner, a better friend, a better coworker, a better human. And shout out to my boy Keith Crowder, who says better humans make better humans. It is what it is. I nearly always have stuff to throw at you. Did you have acne as a teen? A little bit. Yeah. I drank. I shouldn't say drank. That's not the right word. I ate a lot of dairy, and that manifested into a lot of acne. Now, I shouldn't say a lot, but I had acne. A lot of my forehead, right in this area. And I was like every other kid at the time, or every other teenager. I wanted to, what did I get? Proactive. But I learned something. Proactive actually made me learn something about health, because when I bought that Proactive, which was stupid expensive, I noticed that when I would use it, it would smoothen out my skin, right? But every time I stopped using it, I got more acne. More than I had before. So I always used to think like, okay, what are they? They must put something in there that, basically makes me have more, basically makes you, your body produce more acne so you can continue to utilize Proactive, right? I didn't 100% understand how the body worked at that time by any means, but I did notice that, right? That was a little bit of that's kind of looking at myself in retrospect, that was a little bit of intuition, kind of understanding how that was working. But the truth is that look, acne is no different than any other detoxing symptom. That is detoxing. Your body having acne is detoxing. Because the same stuff that's in acne is the same stuff that's in tumors. That's in the same stuff as whatever your body's pretty much expelling. All right. So no, you don't want to use Proactive or what are those little patches they put on there? Now, no, let your body get rid of it. If you want to stop having acne, then quit giving your body the foods that are going to influence your body to have to eliminate it. All right. Dairy, number one. You want to get rid of acne? Quit eating dairy. All right. So my followers out there who are dealing with acne in any form or fashion, eliminate the dairy, then come talk to me. All right. Guarantee it's going to help. All right. What else you got? Most teens and young adults face acne and they have a difficult time with it. A lot of info focused on cleaning, etc. In my time, there wasn't information on detoxing or whatever to help. I don't know if that's something you could focus on sometime. Well, yeah, because this goes back to the conditioning and the intoxication. We always look for a remedy. We are a remedy-based society. Something's wrong. I need to get something to fix it. Never taking the accountability on yourself, because that's ultimately who caused it. All right. So understand, everybody's body is going to detox different than somebody else. All right. Some people, detox heavily with acne. Other people detox heavily with rashes. Sometimes it's eczema, right? Sometimes it's allergies, whatever the case may be. And there's different influences to those things. But since our bodies are completely different, they all have different dispositions. They all have different environmental influences. We're going to detox differently. So unfortunately, we've just been conditioned to think that anytime something's wrong, there's got to be something to fix it. We're always looking for a short-term remedy versus the underlying issue. I'm going to go right back to Hippocrates. Somebody wants to heal. Ask them if they're first willing to give up what made them sick. Somebody dealing with acne, man, they're embarrassed. They don't want to go outside. They don't want to show their face because they have acne. All of us have dealt with those insecurities, right? Some certain insecurities. Okay. Are you willing to give up dairy? And look, dairy is not the only culprit, but it is the main culprit. Are you willing to give up dairy? No, I'm not willing to give up dairy. Okay, then you're going to have acne. Or you can take something like Proactive or whatever. And yeah, that may eliminate the acne. But then you have to ask yourself, well, if my body was trying to eliminate all of that pus and basically mucus out of your body, well, then what's happening when I take Proactive or one of these patches? Your body's not eliminating it. So everything you don't eliminate accumulates. So that acne ends up turning into something more severe because it's got to go somewhere. Your body's trying to get rid of it. Remember, your body will use the skin as the third kidney. When the kidneys are overworked, it's going to use the skin. It's the largest organ of the body. That's where we're at. So, once again, back to how we've been intoxicated. You understand that aspect, starts changing your viewpoint on all these different sicknesses and different diagnoses and whatnot that we went through. Microwave society, man. Quick fix mentality. Yep. Yeah. Everybody has. Everybody's had that. It's, and especially now, like everything is instant gratification. It is difficult. Like I have a teenager myself, but also we have tenants, and they have a teenage daughter. And whenever I talk about health, it's like they just don't give a fuck. Like, and I can't. It's hard for me to speak on what teenagers were like at during my day, when I was a teenager, because I didn't talk about this stuff. I didn't know anything about it. So, but they just don't give a fuck. Like if it's not instant gratification, if it's not like something that's going to appease them right now, they want nothing to do with it. I could tell them, hey, you eat that hamburger, you might have a heart attack next week. I got 7 days. Okay. Trying to get them to stop drinking monsters and just anything, shit, eat a fruit once in a while. They don't want to hear anything about it. Now, I can't say that's every teenager, but for the most part, like the teenagers that I've tried to have conversations with, it's been very tough. Now, I don't know if that's a generational thing. I don't know if that's just society today or whatever it is, but we have to, as parents, really start to be the example. Because even though it's, when they're teenagers, they're a little rebellious, they're a little bit, more stubborn and whatnot. Eventually they become adults and the values start to kick in. That's something I had to learn because of my oldest daughter. She's 26, and it was hard for me when she became an adult to really, truly understand that I had to trust the values that I instilled in her versus trying to control the situation and her environment. No, let her go. Trust the values you instill. So that's kind of the way I look at all what I talk about. Trusting the values that I am sharing, being the example. And is everybody going to swallow that up and abide by that and utilize that? No, of course not. But somebody will. And that somebody is going to share it with somebody else. And then that's how the true ripple effect works. You know what I'm saying? But we got to get out of this instant gratification shit, man. Like, we're just getting dumber. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are. Like, I know people that base their entire education on TikToks. And I'm not saying there's not good information on TikToks, that's not what I'm saying, but like long form content is for a purpose, Books are dying. We can't allow books to die. For real, I got like a little gnat right in front of my face. Yeah, man. How do you look after your teeth so well? Do you use standard toothpaste? Have you ever had them whitened? I've never had my teeth whitened. I use a natural toothpaste. I can't remember the name of it right off the top, but definitely no fluoride, all natural ingredients. The thing is about brushing your teeth, the act of brushing your teeth is actually not healthy for your teeth. Right? It removes a lot of the enamel off your teeth, specifically from an intoxication standpoint and a conditioning standpoint. We've been taught to brush our teeth way too hard. We've been, taught to like scrub our fucking teeth when at the end of the day, that's doing nothing but harming the enamel on your teeth. So brush your teeth softly, right? I use an electric toothbrush. I do it very softly. Use natural toothpaste, stay away from the fluoride, stay away from the whitening agents, all those different things because they're chemicals, right? Now, I know you're not necessarily swallowing the toothpaste, but remnants of that are going to be ingested. You know what I'm saying? And then they're also, look, your mouth is a part of your body. It's going to be absorbed one way or another. So yeah, I mean, now look, if we were in a perfect world, which we are nowhere near, and you were eating a perfect diet, you wouldn't need to brush your teeth at all. From a breath standpoint, from the way your teeth look, for the health of your teeth, the food itself, alkaline foods start to get digested within the mouth. We have enzymes within the mouth that start that process. Fruits are cleansing of the mouth. You wouldn't have any gut issues, so that's usually where the smell and the breath comes from. You wouldn't have dry mouth because you'd be well hydrated. It's a perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, that's the way we were technically designed to be. They call apples nature's toothbrush for that specific reason. But back to the question. I'm going on a tangent, but like I said, very natural toothpaste. Don't brush very hard. Let's see here. There's a teacher that teaches one half of the screen while a game video is played on the other side. Oh, wow. Hey, well, different methods, you know what I'm saying? Different strokes, different folks, different strokes, however you want to say that. But it's like now you have to almost like you have to adapt to society, from an educational standpoint. But this comes back to the parents. Like the parents have the most influence on the children. And look, I deal with it. I got a 8-year-old daughter that loves to play video games. But we have to limit her time on it because we understand, you know, the importance of other aspects of life. And that's tough sometimes. And if they do play video games, what type of video games? Are they playing educational stuff they're learning stuff, or are they just running around killing people? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, it comes back to the parents. The parents have to be the example. What do they tolerate? What are they passing on? Because I talk a lot about generational curses. And if we're just continuously doing things that aren't for the betterment of us, for the detriment of us, and passing that on to our kids, and then they pass it on to their kids, then we're not getting anywhere. We're getting worse. And if you look at humankind, we are getting worse. Every generation's getting worse. Especially from a health standpoint. Like we are getting. There's been a conscious movement, which I appreciate. I feel like a lot more people are open to more conscious elements of life, nature, spirituality, as well as a more plant-based diet. A lot more people are interested in plant-based diets, specifically in the Western Hemisphere. But we got to watch where we go in that aspect, because eating a processed plant-based diet is not going to do you much better than eating meat. You know what I'm saying? You got to stick with whole, raw foods, man. Like that's got to be the direction we go, because eating, fake plant-based fajita meat and plant-based hot dogs and, plant-based fucking yogurt, is not going to help us get healthy. I think consciously and ethically, it's a great step. Energetically, a great step. But let's not get too far down that road and forget that nature provides us everything we need. It doesn't have to be cooked. It doesn't have to be preserved. It doesn't have to be all those processes, because the processes take away a lot of that energy and cause a lot of other issues in the process. And the process and the process and the process. Yeah. I don't see it happening. Marketing will always push towards preserved, ready meals, even if meat didn't exist. Yeah, convenience, instant gratification, right? It's a lot easier to pick up something in a box, throw it in a microwave or throw it in the oven for 10 minutes to eat it versus, cutting up fruit or waiting on fruit to ripen or, whatever the case may be. So yeah. I mean, but we just got to change it, one step at a time. Education is big. I think if more people understood how the body worked, then they'd be more apt to understanding how they need to implement more raw whole foods into their diet. Yeah, but okay, you say there's not much variation with whole foods. Do you know how many fruits and veggie fruits there are? There's a lot. And there's a lot of creative things you can do with them. There's not a lot of variation in beef, chicken, and pork. But when people and chefs spend time with it and they put together things, there's a lot of variation, right? It's no different than fruit, right? So you just have to understand. And look, why does there have to be variation? Think about this, right? How many vehicles are out there? How many car makers? There's so many, right? There's Toyota and Chevy and Ford and Honda and Mitsubishi and Suzuki and whatever, just keep going on and on and on. So many different ones. And I understand that's free enterprise, it's capitalism, all those things, great for them. Do we really need that many cars? We need, or if you choose to drive an automobile, we need a vehicle that's going to get us from point A to point B. It's what we need. We don't need the variation. We've created the variation. Same thing with food. Food's a necessity, right? But we've made food into entertainment. So now we need variation. We need 900 different restaurants. We need 17 different variations of pasta and, different types of sauces and all these different things, because food has become entertainment when it's not supposed to be entertainment. It's nourishment. It's energy. It's a necessity. With that being said, like I said before, like, while I will admit that eating fruit can get boring based on where you live, just determining based on the different fruits that are available, but you can get creative with it and you can appreciate it. And when you understand what it's actually doing to your body and the conditions it's putting your body in, you don't take it for granted. And the variation thing, becomes like a, kind of a small issue. You know what I'm saying? But good point. Doesn't have to be variation, but food companies need to differentiate themselves from the next. Big business will always dominate. They'll always have major influence. Do you grow your own food? Okay, very good points. Yes, once again, it goes back to those systems, right? We live in a corporate world. And when you have Kraft and you have Kellogg's and Nestle and all these different manufacturers, Tyson Chicken, you know what I'm saying? All these different manufacturers, yeah, they want to differentiate themselves from somebody else. So you'll buy their product versus somebody else's, right? You don't see that with fruit, right? You don't see Dole bananas, right, creating some type of marketing campaign to differentiate themselves from Del Monte bananas, because that's not the focus. There's no money in that, because people can grow their own bananas. Now, granted, people can have their own cows and whatnot too, but it's become such a big corporate business and entertainment, and with the influx of restaurants and the jobs it creates and the economic boom that it creates, like, it's something that has been instilled into society. Now, some may say, hey, it's great for the environment. Economy. It's a great thing. Yeah, because we've made it a thing to make it a great thing. Like, we've created a society that is built off of economic stimulation. Whole nother conversation. But you got to ask yourself individually, once again, go back to what I've been talking about. When you detach yourself from those systems, you start to ask yourself, do I really care if there's 900 different restaurants? Do I care? I mean, does it really have an impact on my life? Is it really important, specifically if it's kind of contributing to my demise? Real tough questions, man. And you asked me if I grow my own food. Okay, right now where I live, very difficult to grow my own food. We do have some strawberry plants, but the climate where I'm at, very, very difficult to grow food. But that's why we are in the process of looking for somewhere else to live. We are going to be leaving the States in, let's say, the next couple years. We're trying to find out the place. We're going to go somewhere tropical where we can grow our own fruit and have an abundance of it, and, to where those influences are not as rampant as they are here in the States. So yes, that is the plan right now. Unfortunately, kind of can't. I can't say can't. I mean, we're able to grow some things, but not enough to be able to live off of. You know what I'm saying? So, but good question. Very good question. That is the plan. That is the hope. still fits in with this mindset topic. People will need to do it for themselves. Businesses will always be negative for their diet. Yeah. Look, you can't make money off of fruit. You can't. You can't make money off of lettuce. It's just not, it's very similar to the medical system, right? Like you want to create customers. So you have to focus on a treatment. You have to instill the idea that there is a problem that the person can't solve. So they have to buy something to solve it. It's very similar to how diet is looked at, how food is looked at. Like we have to instill a culture that is built on convenience versus built on sovereignty in a way. Because look, even if you go back 100 years, there weren't all these restaurants. People ate home cooked meals. They were still cooked, but they were at least home cooked meals. And things were homemade, right? From ingredients that you knew like were in there. But once the Industrial Revolution and you had the microwave society come into place to where everything was based on convenience. And then you had corporate America or the corporations come in and ultimately mass produce all these different things. And you don't even know what's in your food anymore. It changed the entire game. But we accepted it. We allowed it to happen. Because we always feel like we are not in control, but we are. You're in control of your diet. You're in control of what you eat. You're in control of what you spend your money on. You're in control of your time. You're in control of your energy. Don't let the media and don't allow the masses to influence who you are. Back to what I talked about before about the intoxication. You're attached to these different systems. You don't realize you are, but you are. And they have influenced how you think, how you look at things, how you make decisions. So work on one, acknowledge it first, and then work on detaching yourself, and then see who you are. Fresh grown potatoes are amazing. Man, I've got something planned for 1 a.m. Okay. But I've enjoyed hanging out. Thank you for knowledge and advice. Oh, man. Plato, appreciate you jumping on. You always bring good energy, man. Definitely appreciate you. And E-Dog as well. Thank you, guys. I'm about to shut it down myself unless anybody has some last questions. If you're watching on the replay, make sure you hit me with the hashtag replay. Ask any question, any comment, and I'd love to get back to you. This has been fun. Like I said, this new series, Detox Yourself, live stream, I'm going to be doing periodically. Don't have a set time for yet, but just want to jump on here and talk for an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on the situation and the activity and the influence and whatnot, and really get down to it, man. But I'm going to say one last time, to make sure you pick up my book, Detox Yourself, The Secret to Freeing Your Mind and Creating a Healthy Life. The link is in the in the description right now. I almost thought I was on Instagram for a minute. Free your mind, change your life. Took me a long time to put this book together, mainly because I wanted it to hit a certain kind of way. And a lot of the concepts I talk about in these lives is in this book. But like I said, it's different when you read it in book form because it's a more intimate, personal type of experience for you. So definitely check that out. Oh, did that wrong. I'm only human, guys. A couple technical difficulties this time. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. I'll get that all situated and make sure my battery don't run out on my camera stand. So I know the picture and the quality is not as good on this particular segment of the show, but the content is all the same. So that's all that's important. I appreciate you, Plato. Yeah, appreciate the chat, guys, man. Yeah, technical difficulties. Gonna be my middle name pretty soon. Anyways, guys, I'm out of here. Y'all be good.